Trustap is a transaction platform, and it's specifically designed for people who are buying and selling online with people they don't know or can't trust. Um, yeah, and we also plug into existing marketplaces. So oftentimes that's where people will be buying and selling with each other. And sometimes you can use Trustap on those websites as well as on our apps and on our website. We have competition, I guess, in the form of kind of older school escrow companies that have been around for a while, and also the kind of more modern wallet type platforms that kind of make it very easy to transfer money between friends and family, but not necessarily safe to do with someone you don't know or you can't trust. And the older school kind of escrow type companies are quite document heavy, not really designed for everyday transactions. So we try and pitch ourselves as a hybrid between those two. As easy to use as kind of the modern wallets, but not as still as safe, I guess, as the old-fashioned escrow type companies. What we do is we build models around specific types of transactions. And what we do then is we hold the buyer's money while their transaction is taking place and release it based on those kind of pre-agreed milestones. And so we don't just take the money and kind of take a step back and let the buyer and seller resolve it themselves. We actually manage the entire transaction. There was a couple of incidents that I experienced myself that kind of led to the conception of the idea. So one was I was buying tickets for a football match in the UK, and I was doing it regularly enough, and I keep encountering kind of the same problem of somebody saying, you send me the ticket. Sorry, you send me the money and I'll post you the ticket afterwards. And I wasn't comfortable doing that. I also sold my granddad's car for him in the car park of a train station at night, and I had to hand over a wad of cash. It's not the nicest situation. So you're both those incidents kind of left me with a feeling of there must be a better way of doing this. And when I kind of explored it, the initial kind of concept was that there was an opportunity to do it better, and that's kind of where it came from. It was very, very basic. It wasn't it's probably very embarrassing to look back at now, but I remember just like an Android version of what we had. So there were, I guess it was functional, but we didn't have a lot of users using it or anything like that. There was a lot of work probably that needs to be done on the product, but it was enough to kind of validate the flow and validate the concept would work. And it was enough to kind of get us to the next stage then at the time. Well, I was very lucky. So I had a friend, his name's Kev O'Leary, who was kind of doing doing a master's at the time in BIS in UCC, and I was able to get some innovation vouchers from Enterprise Ireland at the time, which funded Kev being able to use some of his spare time to develop that first original prototype. So it probably took about the bones of kind of maybe 6 months to put together, and it probably cost between, I'd say, 5 and 10K is what it would have cost. It would, like, the concept came while I was in college and went straight from there. The nature of our product is an interesting one. So it's not like Revolut or Venmo or one of those products where you could in theory use it every day. You're really only going to use this anytime you need to do a certain type of transaction. And so it's very important for us to be top of mind when people are transacting. So, ads or paid ads or social media campaigns and stuff are effective, but they're not as effective as they would be if you could use it all the time. So you really need to catch people at the point where they're transacting. So our kind of route to market is via, let's say, marketplaces whereby those transactions are about to happen. Our target by the end of April is to have 50,000 transactions in that month. So we're probably, whether we'll close enough to reaching that, so hopefully we'll get there. As I was kind of mentioning earlier, it was very much an iterative process to get to where we are now. So it wasn't a case of having a concept, getting a load of money and developing this thing that was ready to go. It was very much done in different steps, whereby it was just enough to get the next grant or the next bit of money to develop it a bit better, and so on. So we started off by getting those innovation vouchers from Enterprise Ireland, and then in our local enterprise office in South Cork, we got some priming grants and some match funding there, I guess. And then we, through different competitions, you can pick up a little bit of prize money here and there, but we eventually got to the point where we wanted to raise this seed round, and we were lucky enough to be able to do that, to find a brilliant lead investor and a team of people who were willing to kind of back us to do it. But it wasn't a case of doing it based off of an idea. It kind of was very much an iterative process, as I was saying. Liam Casey, who is our lead investor, and the rest are kind of private angels. Yeah, it's. I don't know if I'm able to give the exact breakdown. It's less than €1 million. So we haven't received more than €1 million. Now we will probably try and raise around halfway through this year if we can. We're not under any kind of huge pressure to do it or anything, because we have transactions that are kind of funding it the whole time. But in order to take the next step and grow, we'll probably need to raise a large round this year. So that'll be the next step. So our model is kind of a commission-based model, and we chose it based on the fact that it's the nature of the product was that it was only going to be used a couple of times, so it didn't make sense to charge people subscriptions or sign up fees or anything like that. They just pay per transaction. So depending on how much the transaction is or the payment method, there's a fee associated with that. So probably only about 18 months ago, so not like straight away by any means. I guess when the round was raised, really I was able to when we were putting together our costs and where the money would go, I was able to give myself a small salary at that point. So that was when it started. Yes, it depends on what you would say are associated costs to it. So obviously salaries being probably our biggest expense. But in terms of the software, obviously we use, kind of the latest available technology that's out there, and stuff like, AWS for most of our hosting and things like that. So we don't actually have a huge expense on literally the software side. We've tried to make it so that all our expenses based on a transaction are on a transactional basis as well, so that we can ensure that every transaction is a profit-making transaction, that we don't incur any losses on them. And that's kind of been the basis of most of our strategy around that. Question. Well, I guess realistically, anybody that's been there and done it would add valuable experience. But some of the, I guess, people that I look up to, probably obvious ones, like Elon Musk, people like that. I'm sure if anyone like that got their hands on what we were doing, they'd be able to add value and improve it. So he's probably the kind of easy answer. I just try and, I guess, plan my time as efficiently as possible. I think it's something that I kind of got better at since school and college. I've always been able to kind of study and separate, let's say, my social life or my extracurricular activities from the work I had to do. So I think I got advice from a teacher when I was in school about, when you're studying, you should do that, and when you're taking a break, it should be a break. You should never try and kind of mix the two or do half and half.
And in the platform, do you get many feature requests? And second to that, how do you deal with feature requests?
We get loads of feature requests, but at the start, you kind of had to, if someone was going to partner with you or put volume through the platform, if you built out a feature, you kind of would reprioritize and do that. Like we're we do use a very agile methodology when it comes to developing new features and stuff. So we have everything prioritized based on our goals for that particular period. But so it's rare that, I guess, nowadays that something will come up that kind of jumps to the top of the queue, like we have to build this feature. That it doesn't really happen anymore. But usually it would go through like a product cycle. So like if, you know, one user requested it, then that would be one thing. But if, you know, it was a kind of a very popular request, or it kept getting requested or things like that, then we put it through a product cycle, kind of realize the problem that it was being solved, try and do more in-depth research on whether, you know, because what people often do is they'll suggest a solution, but that might be just the first thing that came to their head. They'll suggest a solution as a feature, but if you understand what the actual underlying problem was that they suggested that feature, you might think of a better way to do it, or a more efficient way to do it. So I think understanding the basis of where they got that idea to make a feature request is important, and then it's about prioritizing it and seeing, can you fit it in the roadmap? Because I'm sure, like a lot of businesses at our stage, we have an enormous roadmap of things that we need to do and not a big enough team to do it. So prioritizing is important. The worst one, well, it used to be kind of, I guess, let's say the HR side of things. I like that's difficult. Don't really enjoy it. Like anything, you kind of you're probably better at the things you enjoy the most, and that like wasn't one of them. But I guess that particular department has been covered now. I enjoy things like the sales side of things, the fundraising, all that kind of stuff that most people would sometimes say. I actually don't mind that. And yeah, I've always kind of used the somebody gave some advice somewhere along the way to always hire people who are better than you at what you're trying to do. And so that wasn't really difficult for me anyway. I was able to get people in those kind of roles I didn't really like doing that were really good at them. And then we've got a good team together that can kind of do pretty much everything. So we're in a good spot regarding that now. But I would say, probably to answer your question, probably the HR stuff at the start.